What if I told you just 1 week ago that this side of the World Cup bracket would end with France facing Morocco in the quarterfinals? Would you have believed me? Probably not. Because every prediction pointed somewhere else. The Netherlands were expected to be here. Germany were nailed-on favorites to make it too. But after only 6 knockout matches, Germany were dumped out. The Netherlands were sent packing. Instead, Morocco are still standing. Paraguay are still standing. Even France had to survive an absolute war just to stay alive. So what changed? Did the heavyweights simply choke under pressure? Or did the underdogs prove they belong on the biggest stage of all? And let's look back to the start, match by match, and retrace the journey that set up this blockbuster World Cup quarter-final between France and Morocco. Before France could even think about Paraguay, they first had to clear the hurdle of Sweden. Meanwhile, on the other side of the bracket, Paraguay were busy plotting the tournament's first major upset against Germany. Only after those 2 fixtures would their paths finally cross. France headed into the round of 32, looking like one of the most lethal attacking forces in the tournament. Sweden knew they had 0 margin for error. A single defensive slip against this front line would mean instant elimination from the World Cup, and that is exactly how it played out. From the opening whistle, France suffocated Sweden with a relentless high press, completely disrupting their build-up play from the back. Every time France regained possession, they transitioned at lightning speed through Kylian Mbappé and Bradley Barcola, pinning the Swedish defense deep inside their own final third for most of the match. A comfortable, commanding 3-0 victory. Mbappé netted a brace. Barcola bagged the third. France punched their ticket to the round of 16 with a clean sheet, without needing extra time, and crucially, without burning out their star players. For Sweden, the World Cup dream dies here. Viktor Gyökeres and Alexander Isak are heading back to Stockholm after failing to cope with one of the most clinical attacks in international football. Following the final whistle, the Swedish media slammed the massive golfing clash between their squad and the tournament favorites, with pundits demanding an immediate rebuild ahead of the next international cycle. But while France waited to see who they would face next, the adjacent fixture on this side of the bracket was about to send shockwaves through the footballing world. Paraguay delivered the first major shock. Before kickoff, ask any football fan who was going through, and you would get the exact same answer. Germany. After all, they had the pedigree. They had the big game experience, and they boasted one of the deepest squads in the tournament. So the real question wasn't whether Germany were the favorites. It was this: were Germany actually the better football team? Or were they just living off their reputation? Paraguay had absolutely no intention of going toe-to-toe for possession. Instead, they set up in a stubborn, compact, low block, choked the central spaces, and forced Germany into harmless, wide areas. Germany dominated the ball. They created openings. They threw bodies forward wave after wave. But when it mattered most, they lacked the killer instinct in the final third. Paraguay maintained total tactical discipline for 120 grueling minutes. Then came the drama of the penalty shootout, spot kick after spot kick, until Germany were officially knocked out. The first tournament giant had fallen. The biggest shock wasn't just the defeat itself. It was the sheer stature of the team going home. In Berlin, the back pages changed instantly. Just days ago, the talk was about bringing the World Cup trophy home. Now, the headlines read a simple question: how did it all go so wrong so early? Pundits heavily criticized the wasted chances, questioned the manager's tactics into goals. Meanwhile, in Asunción, the party was already underway. Paraguay had just pulled off a historic giant killing against one of the most decorated nations in football history. For Germany, the journey ends in heartbreak. Florian Wirtz and Jamal Musiala are heading home much earlier than anyone predicted. A side heavily tipped to challenge for the title vanished before the quarterfinals. But this historic win gave Paraguay something far more valuable than just a spot in the next round. It gave them total belief, because once you knock out Germany, you stop fearing anyone. As the German squad prepared for a somber flight back to Berlin, waiting for them in the next round, an unbeaten France. Could Paraguay pull off another miracle? From the opening whistle, Paraguay refused to give France a single inch of breathing room. Every 50-50 challenge was contested with ferocity. Every loose ball was a war. The fluid, attacking tempo France enjoyed against Sweden was completely neutralized. Instead of slick passing combinations and rapid breaks, the match turned into an ugly war of attrition, tactical discipline, and patience. Paraguay's game plan was clear: disrupt the flow, break up the rhythm, and rattle France's danger men, Kylian Mbappé and Ousmane Dembélé. For long stretches, it worked to perfection. The match was constantly stopped by heavy tackles and aggressive duels. The French players grew visibly frustrated, repeatedly remonstrating with the referee for letting strong challenges fly without booking the Paraguayans. By the time the final whistle blew, one shocking stat stood out above everything else. France picked up 3 yellow cards. Paraguay picked up 0. That single stat became the focal point of the post-match fallout. The French media fiercely questioned the referee's consistency, arguing that several dangerous tackles went unpunished. Even L'Équipe handed the official one of the lowest refereeing ratings of the tournament, while TV pundits spent hours analyzing whether the match had completely gotten away from him. Yet, despite all the chaos and controversy, France found the moment of quality they desperately needed: a penalty. Kylian Mbappé stepped up. No nerves, no hesitation. He coolly sent the keeper the wrong way. 1-0 to France. It wasn't just the match winner. It was the goal that rescued France from what had become a tactical nightmare. The reigning European heavyweights survived to reach the quarterfinals. For Paraguay, the fairy tale comes to an end. Within hours, the match triggered an international incident. Paraguayan Senator Celeste Amarilla sparked outrage by making racist remarks targeting Kylian Mbappé. The toxic comments spread instantly across social media and global news networks. The French Football Federation immediately announced they were taking legal action. Mbappé, however, showed absolute class in his response. Instead of firing back, he calmly stated that the ugly words of one individual should never be used to judge an entire nation. His maturity and composure earned him widespread praise across the sporting world. As France packed their bags for the quarterfinals, the other half of the bracket was preparing an even bigger shock. Morocco were locking horns with the Netherlands, while France had secured their spot in the final 8. The other side of this bracket was still up for grabs. It all started with Canada taking on South Africa. On paper, Canada boasted the far superior squad: Jonathan David, Stéphane Eustáquio, a golden generation of talent. South Africa, on the other hand, entered the tie as clear underdogs with absolutely nothing to lose. Their tactical blueprint was simple: stay compact, defend deep in their own box, and hurt Canada on the counterattack whenever the opportunity arose. Canada dominated possession for large periods of the game, but unlocking a stubborn South African low block proved to be a massive tactical headache. Clear-cut chances were hard to come by, spaces were tightly restricted, and frustration began to creep into the Canadian side. Canada needed patience, not individual showboating. Then, deep into stoppage time, the breakthrough finally arrived. Stéphane Eustáquio popped up to smash home the winner, sending Canada through to the next round. It wasn't a vintage performance that will make global highlight reels, but it proved something just as crucial: character. Canada showed they have the grit to win ugly, even when they aren't firing on all cylinders. Another massive boost for the Canadians was the return of Alphonso Davies, who made his tournament debut after shaking off an injury. For South Africa, the World Cup journey comes to a close. But as Canada celebrated, the football world shifted its focus to a monumental clash, a fixture that would completely turn this side of the World Cup bracket upside down. The road that was supposed to belong to the Dutch ended with Morocco. If Paraguay's giant killing of Germany was shocking, Morocco were about to deliver a tactical masterclass that would rival it. The Netherlands cruised into the knockout rounds as genuine tournament favorites. They were defensively solid, tactically disciplined, composed on the ball, and loaded with elite knockout stage experience. Almost every football pundit expected the Orange to march comfortably into the quarterfinals. Morocco, however, hadn't read the script. Head coach Mohamed Wahbi knew that trying to outplay the Dutch in possession would be tactical suicide. Instead, Morocco focused on staying compact, closing the spaces between the lines, and looked to hit the Dutch on the break the second they won the ball. The Netherlands had lion's share of the ball, but sterile possession means nothing. Morocco looked infinitely more dangerous every single time they transitioned forward. Neither side could find a breakthrough during the regulation 90 minutes. Extra time came and went. And still, they couldn't be separated. The tie would be decided by the lottery of a penalty shootout, one spot kick, then another. The tension inside the stadium was suffocating. Finally, the decisive penalty hit the back of the net. Virgil van Dijk, Cody Gakpo, and the rest of the Dutch squad are heading back to Amsterdam far earlier than anyone could have anticipated. A match. Back in Morocco, the celebrations quickly shifted into a grander conversation. Fans weren't just celebrating a famous win. They were asking a much bigger question. Could Morocco replicate their historic, magical 2022 World Cup run? Or could they go all the way this time? The bracket is set. Canada survived South Africa. Morocco eliminated the Netherlands. The stage is set for a massive showdown. Morocco versus Canada. A one-off surprise, or the start of something special. In the wake of their historic win over the Dutch, the entire football world could not stop talking about Morocco. But inside the Moroccan dressing room, Mohamed Wahbi had one main enemy: complacency. Because masterminding a win over the Netherlands counts for absolutely nothing if you follow it up by crashing out against Canada. Canada rolled into the fixture brimming with confidence. They had shown immense mental grit to get past South Africa with that dramatic, late stoppage time winner. Alphonso Davies was back in the starting infants. Jonathan David was in red-hot form. Belief in the Canadian camp was sky high. Many neutrals thought another upset was on the cards. Instead, Morocco put on their finest display of the entire tournament. From the first whistle, the gap in quality was undeniable. Morocco weren't sitting back trying to protect what they did against the Netherlands. They were ruthlessly building on it. Their front foot pressing caught Canada completely off guard. Their offensive transitions were sharper, and their off-the-ball movement tore the Canadian defensive structure apart. Every time Canada tried to commit bodies forward, Morocco ruthlessly punished the space left behind. By the time the referee blew the final whistle, the scoreboard told the full story. Morocco 3. Canada media showered praise not just on the scoreline, but on the sheer quality of the performance. Football analysts everywhere are now labeling Morocco as one of the most complete and convincing teams left in the tournament. For Canada, the dream run ends here. Jonathan David, Alphonso Davies, and Steven Eustachio head home disappointed, but with their heads held high. Canada made the knock. They are no longer just carrying the hopes of the Arab world or Africa as underdogs. They are genuine title contenders, one of the most feared teams left in the competition. The road is now fully mapped out. France dispatched Sweden, then survived the Paraguayan dogfight. Morocco stunned the Netherlands, then proved it was no fluke by dismantling Canada. The ultimate prize, a blockbuster quarter-final clash. France versus Morocco, a heavyweight rematch. They aren't fighting for a spot in the final. It was a ticket to the 2026 World Cup semi-finals. 6 knockout ties. 6 entirely different pitch. Friends yesterday, rivals today. Just a few months ago, Achraf Hakimi and Kylian Mbappé were wearing the exact same shirt. They trained together, celebrated together, and lifted trophies together. But the World Cup has no room for sentiment. France pinned their hopes on Mbappé, Ousmane Dembélé, and Désiré Doué. Morocco countered with Achraf Hakimi, Brahim Diaz, and a squad carrying the weight of an entire nation. In knockout football, emotions mean nothing. Details decide everything. And against the French heavyweights, those fine margins ultimately broke Moroccan hearts. After matching the world's elite, this quarter-final presented a massive tactical puzzle. Didier Deschamps caught many by surprise, starting Désiré Doué ahead of Bradley Barcola. This tactical tweak added fluid movement between the lines, giving Mbappé and Dembélé extra support out wide. On the other side, Mohamed Wahbi trusted his proven system, relying on Hakimi's overlapping runs and Brahim Diaz leading the front line. From the opening whistle, France refused to rush their play, patiently trying to draw Morocco out of their defensive shape. Morocco answered with a stubborn, compact low block. The midfield line stayed incredibly narrow, and France struggled to carve out any clear-cut openings early on. Every single time Mbappé touched the ball, Hakimi and his covering defenders double-teamed him instantly. Morocco looked to hit them on the break through rapid transitions, but France's aggressive counterpress snuffed out the danger. Both managers knew that a single error would decide the entire tie. Then came the biggest flashpoint of the first half. France were awarded a penalty. Kylian Mbappé stepped up to the spot, but Yassine Bounou read the strike perfectly, pulling off a world-class save. This heroic moment kept Morocco alive, sending both teams into the break goalless. Morocco executed their defensive game plan perfectly for nearly an hour. But in the 60th minute, Mbappé finally found the pocket of space he had been hunting for. He picked up the ball near the edge of the box, turned his marker in a flash, and produced a clinical finish to break the deadlock. That opening goal completely changed the complexion of the match. Morocco could no longer afford to sit deep. They were forced to chase the game, leaving spaces exposed at the back. Only 6 minutes later, the French attack struck again on the transition, and Ousmane Dembélé put the finishing touches to make it 2-0. 2 goals in just 6 minutes effectively ended Morocco's World Cup dream. From that moment on, France managed the game with elite experience, dictating the tempo and taking the sting out of the match. In his post-match press conference, Mohamed Wahbi conceded that France simply possessed the clinical edge in the final third. Tactical analysis showed that Achraf Hakimi was kept quiet offensively, as France aggressively targeted the space behind him whenever he pushed forward. Brahim Diaz also found himself isolated for long stretches against France's physical center-backs. On the flip side, Désiré Doué fully vindicated Deschamps' gamble, constantly finding pockets of space between the lines. For France, this was another warning sign of why they remain favorites. When the decisive moments arrive, they ruthlessly take their chances. For Morocco, the journey ends in heartbreak, but they leave the world stage with immense pride. They prove to the globe that their historic 2022 run was no fluke, but the result of a footballing project that is only getting bigger. In the end, one iconic image captured the entire story: Achraf Hakimi and Kylian Mbappé. Friends yesterday, rivals today. 90 minutes of fierce competition separated them on the pitch. But the moment the final whistle blew, mutual respect remained. France moved one step closer to football's ultimate prize, while Morocco exit the tournament with their heads held high. But if you thought this side of the World Cup bracket was wild, the other side was pure, unadulterated madness. Brazil have been sent packing. Portugal have been knocked out. One of the greatest icons in football history has said a final goodbye to the World Cup stage. And Erling Haaland has just written an unbelievable piece of international football history. We are going to break down that exact same path, match by match, story by story, until we reach another unforgettable semifinal. If you enjoyed this deep dive documentary, make sure to smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the next episode. See you in the next video.